And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. And we're doing so today by filling you in on what's going on with me. Yeah, I'm going to give you an info dump on me. Now, I'm not doing this because I want to brag. I'm not doing this because my ego is saying, man, you got to brag about yourself. I mean, that's really not who I am. The reason I'm going to fill you in on what's going on with me is because you've asked me to do that. Yeah, I've gotten several requests from askal@luinc.com. That's how if you want to get a hold of me, just send me an email at askal@luinc.com. Or you picked up the phone and you called 866-945-6565. Again, that number 866-945-6565. You talked to a live real estate investor who happens to be on the Lifestyles Unlimited team, and you said, hey, will you do me a favor? Tell Al I want to know what's going on with what he's up to. And I got the messaging that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you, and hopefully I'm not going to bore you guys to death, but I'm going to share with you what's been going on in my world. Now, if you've listened to this radio show for any length of time, you know that Tina and I sold our principal residence in Texas last year. We did it in the right at the very end, beginning of fourth quarter, end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter. I think that's around the time frame. I think we closed escrow right at the end of September of 2025. And we were going to hang out in a hotel with near where my son lives down in Corpus Christi, hang out with him and his loved ones. And we got down there to Corpus, and literally the day we got down there, as you know, he's a member of the Texas National Guard. He got activated for a mission, and he had to go. So we're hanging out in Corpus Christi. My son's not there. So we're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? We're going to stay in Corpus Christi hanging out. We're going to go affect our plan of buying an RV and traveling around the United States. What are we going to do? So my role was to do the research on the RV, figure out exactly what we ought to buy, where we ought to buy it, how much we ought to spend, yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, Tina was doing market research on the state of Tennessee. Yeah, the state of Tennessee. And a lot of you are going, wait a minute, Texas is kind of a 2 days drive to Tennessee? And yeah, that would be true, depending on where in Texas you originate from. If you leave from Dallas, it's maybe about a day, but if you leave from where we were, which was down in Corpus Christi, it really takes about 2 days to get to Tennessee. And we had taken a trip through Tennessee because we were interested in investing in Tennessee. We were interested in possibly living in Tennessee. And we had never really been to Tennessee. I think I may have driven through it once when I was in my 20s. Don't even remember it. So Tina and I had taken a trip, and it was like a week-long trip. We left Texas. We went to Chattanooga and then up into the Knoxville area. We went up to Bristol. We shot across over to Nashville, went up to Clarksville, and then went through Memphis on our way back to Texas. And we saw a lot of beautiful, beautiful places that made us go, wow, Tennessee might be the place where we want to live. So why do I tell you that? Well, that leads me to what Tina was up to. Tina's doing market research on Tennessee, and not to buy investment property, but to buy a property maybe where we might live. And she spotted one. She did. She spotted about an 1,840 square foot house with a full finished basement, which gives you about, 3,600, 3,700 square feet of total living space, right on Kentucky Lake, with a total of 5.5 acres, over 1,000 feet of frontage along the lake. We're at the very end of a 3.5-mile road. Not too many people live out here. There are people that have properties out here that use them as weekend getaways. So we found what we consider to be one of the most remote and beautiful places on the planet. And Tina looks at me and she says, scrap the RV plan. Now you got to understand, when I go into research mode, I go full in. I mean, it's like, cover me because I'm going to go clear the house. You know what I'm talking about, right? All right, so I'm doing all this research, and my better half tells me, stop. So I'm like, why? What's going on? She said, I found our house. And I said, what house? What do you mean? Because I didn't even know she was doing all this market research. But she found this house. And I said, all right, you want to buy it? Great. I stopped my research on RVs. I just stopped dead flat cold because, well, this property caught my eye too. And what we did was we put Tina on a plane, sent her out to Tennessee to where the property's at, hooked up with our realtor, bought the property, she flew back to Texas. We hung out in a hotel room in Corpus Christi for a little while longer while we were doing all the inspections. And then we eventually closed escrow on the property. Now, keep in mind, I've never set foot in this property, but I've closed escrow on it. Why did I feel confident in doing that? Number one, I know how to buy properties remotely. Lifestyles Unlimited taught me how to do that. Number two, I know a ton of people that are Lifestyles Unlimited members that buy properties remotely. Never step foot in the properties. And I talked to them. And I called a couple of them up and I said, hey, give me your feedback on what I should do or not do. And they gave me great advice. So we proceeded with the transaction. In the next segment, I'm going to tell you about the bones and the guts of this property. Stick around. Welcome back to the show. As promised, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the bones and the guts of this house. Now, upon Tina's visual inspection of the property, when she flew out to Tennessee, now I wasn't there. She was at the property. I was in Texas. She would call me. She'd do like video chats with me, kind of show me around the property. And I could see that the property itself, looked a little tired, looked a little worn. Kind of like the investment properties that we buy. Kind of like had been lived in. And when I did my title search on the property, I determined that the property had been built about 25 years ago. That original owner lived in the property for about 17 years. And then they decided to move on. And they sold the property to somebody else, who in turn sold it 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 to me. Now, why do I bring that up? Because over the course of about 25 years this property has been in existence, there's been about 5 different tastes applied to the home. Now, the home, I mean, it looked a little dated, looked a little worn, didn't necessarily like the cabinets. But what we could tell was the bones of the property seemed to be pretty good. What we needed to find out was how good were the guts? How good were the systems? So that's where the inspections came in. And I relied upon the inspections to give me real-time information about how the guts are doing in the property. I had a well test done. I had a septic test done. I had a roof inspection. I had an interior inspection. I had a water analysis done. There's other tests that I ran. I'm not trying to give you a laundry list of what I did, but I did the important tests that were, from my standpoint, required to give me the information I needed. All the tests came back clear, except for one. One test came back with slight iron content in the water. Slight, not dangerous, not harmful, none of that, just slight. So I said, I can work with that. There are water filtration systems, there are water treatment systems you can put in to remedy that if that's a problem. So we proceeded with the purchase of the home. We bought the home, we moved in, and we immediately realized that all the visual aspects of the home, the cabinetry, the flooring, where the bathrooms were configured, where everything was laid out. And we realized that whoever did the original design did a pretty good job, but they kind of did stuff on the cheap too. And we're not interested in doing stuff on the cheap. We're interested in doing stuff that makes it very aesthetically pleasing, because eventually this house is going to have to be sold in the future. I may not be the one selling it. I may die in this house, which is fine with me. My wife may die in this house, which means that it becomes the property of my two children, and they've got to decide what to do with it, and they'll probably sell it. And when they sell it, it's going to be a little worn out. It's going to be lived in, but it's going to be reflective of our tastes. Now, let me just pick on the house a little bit, some of the things that didn't work. Kitchen, gutted. Yeah, all the cabinets, the appliances, the fixtures, everything was effectively what you would buy when you find it on sale at the big box stores. Yeah, that's kind of what it was. If it was on sale, that's what they probably bought, and that's probably what they installed. Now, I don't know which owner did all of that. I know who probably did the cabinets, probably the original guy. But as far as the fixtures and the appliances, I don't know which owner did that. But everything was kind of on the cheap. The flooring. There was tile in the entryway in the kitchen. There was tile in both bathrooms. There was hardwood floors throughout the rest of the upstairs. None of the tile matched. Yeah, hear me clearly. None of it matched. It was all different in each of those three tiled areas. Now, they weren't next to each other, but they were all different. Had to go. The hardwood floors, we thought about saving those. But then when you really looked at the hardwood floors, you realized that they used different types of wood in different parts of the home. So, for instance, in the master bedroom, they had 3-inch wide planks. In the rest of the home, they had like 2.5-inch wide planks. And then the actual layout wasn't all in the same direction. They went one direction one way, and for one room, they went a different direction for another room. It was all hodgepodge. It was all, in our opinion, improperly done. It's kind of like they found some hardwood stuff on sale. They bought what they could. They put in what they could. Maybe they ran out of money, or they waited until they found another sale, or whatever the deal was, and they bought whatever they bought, and then they got that put in. And even the installation of those hardwood floors was not properly done. There was a lot of stuff that was very improper, which we noticed as we were taking it all out. Now, the bathrooms are a joke. Yeah, let's just call it a joke. The cabinets were designed for somebody who's very short. Now I'm 6'1", and I'm not picking on people that are shorter than me. My wife is 5'3", so I have an appreciation for people that are not as tall as I am. But I think the original owners may have been shorter than my wife because all of the cabinetry in the master bathroom was designed for somebody that's very short in stature. Didn't work for me. It just didn't work. And there's 8-foot ceilings, and the cabinetry only came up to the 7-foot mark. Yeah, it looked really weird. So all that stuff's gone. The bathtub that was in there, gone. The shower that was in there, gone. The flooring that was in there, gone. Toilet, gone. Closet space, gone. It's all gone. It's all been ripped out. Second bath, same thing. We are down to studs and insulation in those 2 rooms. All the flooring is gone. We are down to subfloors throughout the upstairs. Now we're living down, we're living down in the basement, which is totally fine. It's very comfortable down there. We've actually got a bedroom down there, and we've got an extra living room down there. So we're living the high life as we go through the remodelization, or remodernization, I should say, of our principal residence. In the next segment, I'm going to tell you what we're up to get it back together. Stick around. Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon, in case you forgot, and I'm working on your financial freedom. Actually, we're working on your financial freedom because it's not just me at Lifestyles Unlimited. I'm not just Dick Van Dyke and his one-man band. There's a lot of people on the Lifestyles Unlimited team that are helping me help you. And you're probably wondering, well, how is this you talking about your personal residence? How is this helping me become a real estate investor? You know, that's actually a good point. Here's how I think it's helping. One of the things I may not have pointed out to you as of yet is that I'm using many of the techniques and tactics that Lifestyles Unlimited teaches to do the remodel of my principal residence. It's true. The things that I have learned by rehabbing single-family houses or multifamily apartment communities has trained me well for this event. I'm actually having fun. I am. I'm doing some of the work. Tina and I are doing some of the work. Now we got a 3-man team that we bring in to do some of the heavy lifting stuff, the stuff that even though we know how to do it, we just don't want to do it. Like, we're completely replacing all of the interior plumbing. Yeah, we're ripping out the old stuff and putting in new stuff. Now, why am I ripping out the old stuff? All right, here's why. The lines have become contaminated. Now, they're not unhealthy. It's not like the water coming out is sewer water or anything like that. But there was a situation that happened right after we bought the property. And this is why you always have contingency money in your back pocket. The well pump was pumping into the holding tank. We've got like a pressurized, I don't know, was it 25, 30 gallon, maybe it's not even that big, 10 gallon. I don't know how big the dang thing is. Those of you that know more about wells than I, you know what I'm talking about. But there's a big blue tank that pressurizes the water that allows us to have pressure throughout the house. That tank became unserviceable. And when it became unserviceable, it was pumping water into a water filtration system that was existing in the home. That water filtration system failed. It failed. And here's why it failed. Remember when I told you between like the first owner and us, there was like 4 different owners? Well, one of those owners put in the water filtration system that was here when we bought the house that appeared to be working fine and passed all of our inspection tests, except for the minute amount of iron, which I could live with. Here's the problem. That system failed. Why did it fail? Because the filters that were originally put into that system when it was installed 5 years before I bought it had never been replaced. Yeah, we that's one thing the inspection did not uncover. We figured it out by looking through documentation that was provided to us, that was passed down to us. And then I found on the back of one of the tanks a little sticker. I guess the inspector didn't see it. I mean, you really had to crawl around behind the thing to see it. I don't even know why it was on the back side of the tank, but it was there, indicating a service date that was 4 years before we bought it. Now, had that service been done, somebody would have updated that tag. They didn't. Our water system failed, and it blew out our pressure pump in the process. So it was about a $10,000 fix to get the well company to come out, make sure the well pump was working fine. Fortunately, that didn't get damaged. About $1,000 of that $10,000 was to replace the pressure tank. So that was done. And then I found the best water treatment company in the state of Tennessee. And when I say the best one, they actually do stuff for industrial. And I said, hey, do you do some residential? And they say, yeah, we do some residential. And I said, well, come out. I got a problem, and it needs to be fixed. So I got them to come out from Nashville to my house, which is 2 hours away, and they completely rebuilt me a water treatment system in my house. I get clean water. Clean water now. But the problem with the pipes is they periodically leach contaminants that had gotten in there. So we're going to replace all of the plumbing supply lines, and we're just going to start fresh so that our clean water that comes out of our water treatment system is clean throughout the house. And we put in all brand new fixtures in the kitchen. We're putting them in the bathrooms. The bathrooms are just, well, it's just subfloor, studs, and some insulation on the exterior wall. That's all it is. But my guys, my three-man team, they're here today. Now they're being nice right now. I've been listening for them because I expected them to be making a bunch of noise while I was doing the radio show, but I did tell them, hey, I'm doing radio from here to here today. Can you guys kind of at least be as quiet as possible? I don't want you to stop working because I need the work to get done. But if you can find areas where it's not so noisy, could you do that? They apparently are doing that. So I don't hear them. You don't hear them. But they're working. So what are they doing? Well, they're completely redoing the plumbing throughout the house. That's priority number one today. Tomorrow, they're going to be redoing all the electrical for the bathrooms and the master bedroom, because we're changing where doors are. We're changing where physical locations are in the bathroom. The toilet's been moved. The shower's in a completely different place. The closet's in a place that makes sense. We've got his and her vanities in there. We're taking over space that was unused previously to make it a bigger space. Because keep in mind, we're not dealing with a ton of space to begin with, where we're making better use of the available space. And they're going to be doing a lot of that work today and tomorrow. So I've got 3 guys doing what it would probably take me 2 weeks to do. And they're going to get it done probably in about 2 days. Now, it costs some money. Realistically, it costs me about $750 per day. That's really what I pay for that 3-man team. But if they can knock out all of my plumbing, all of my electrical work in 2 days, that's $1,500 well spent. Now, where did I learn how to do that? Where did I learn how to find good tradespeople that will work at a price that I'm comfortable with. Lifestyles Unlimited. It's taught throughout the entire program. It's taught to you when you initially go through the classes. It's reinforced as you continue to prosper as a member, as you attend Lifestyles Unlimited events. It is reinforced in your mind. So everything basically I'm doing in this property is what I would do, well, maybe a little better than what I would do for a rental property. Now, I may not have moved toilets and showers in a rental property because, after all, I have to look at what does it cost to do that versus what can I get in rent. And if there's no trade-off, then I'm probably not going to do it. I mean, is somebody going to pay me an extra $25 a month because the toilet's over here instead of over there? Doubt it. They're going to pay me based off how competitive I am in the marketplace. But at the end of the day, isn't that a nice way to talk about it? In the next segment, I'll tell you more about what I'm up to. Stick around. Welcome back to the show. So, you want to know what else is going on in my world? I mean, first of all, you want to know where I get all the time to focus on working on my principal residence? Because I actually enjoy doing what I'm doing. I'm having fun. Tina and I are having a great time turning this, well, what could be a gorgeous property. It started off kind of as a meh property, but here's the thing about this property. Here's the thing I didn't tell you about the property. The value of the property is in its location. The real value is in the land. The real value is having a house on 5.5 acres with 1,000 foot of frontage on Kentucky Lake in Tennessee, and the beauty that's all around me, and the natural wildlife, and the fact that we bought this property for less than it was really worth. Yeah, we did. How do we know that? Because we did our market research. And that's one of the things that Tina keyed in on when she was doing her research when we were hanging out in that hotel in Corpus Christi. She looked at the asking price of the house. And then she researched potential comps. And she made a few phone calls. I think she even called an appraiser in the area and said, "Hey, look, I know you don't have to do this, but can you give me some information on the area, because I'm calling you from Texas." And my wife's just got a way of getting people to do what she asks them to do. So she got great market data. What we realized was that we could pay a certain price for the house. Yet the actual price for the house comparatively in the area was at least $100,000 more than what we were paying. Now, why was that? Well, I think the why was that is answered in the fact that when Tina came to inspect the property, she noted that the property had good bones. And the guts were kind of okay, but the skin on the interior, not good condition, not aesthetically appealing, dated, worn out, very cheap looking. Kind of like you're trying to make the property work on a budget that isn't commensurate with the type of property you're trying to make it work on. And it showed. And she saw that. And she said, we can fix this place up. It ain't going to cost us $100,000 to do it. So let's buy this place, capture some equity in the deal, spend some of our cash to do the improvements, spend some of our cash to bring that 3-man team in as we need them, because, man, they knock the work out. And it's a good price for the amount of work I get. And we're coming to closure on this thing. We're doing all the plumbing right now, all the electrical right now. Framing is going up. Walls will be inserted. The flooring is coming in. And then the finish work occurs after that. We're probably 6 to 8 weeks away from completion. And we can see the finish line. And here's the thing. For that more than $100,000 of equity that I effectively captured when I bought this property, I didn't spend it all fixing it up. So I still have some of that captured equity in the deal. Pretty cool, right? I think it's pretty cool when somebody learns how to invest in real estate and they're able to take that information and actually apply it to their principal residence. Now, not every Lifestyles Unlimited member does this. As a matter of fact, I think most of them are sane, unlike me. And I think what they do is they look for the best quality that they can buy without having to live through the rehab. But for Tina and I, we don't mind it. I mean, I spent 27 years in the Army. I know how to live in austere conditions. Tina spent some time in the Army too. Not as long as I did, although technically she was married to me. So, I mean, that's like forced servitude, whether she liked it or not. But her time in the Army was just as difficult, just as austere. And, you know, we know how to rough it if we have to. Now, we're not really roughing it. I told you, I've got a bedroom downstairs. I got a living room downstairs. Now, I will say she did just tear out the downstairs kitchen. And the reason she did that is because we are moving stuff around downstairs. We're moving where the downstairs kitchen sink is. We're moving where the washer and dryer exist. Yeah, that's all part of the plumbing rescheduling that we're doing in the property. But when it's all done, this place is going to sing. Oh, and my upstairs kitchen is fully installed. The only thing that needs to happen up there is flooring. Yeah, we've gotten the upstairs kitchen area done. So now it's a matter of getting the bathrooms done, getting the modifications to the master bedroom done. Once all that's done, getting the flooring put in throughout, and we're going to be golden. And we're going to be sitting in a beautiful house that matches our style, matches what we like for a living space. As a matter of fact, it's not just what we like, it's what a lot of other people like too. That's the beauty of my wife, Tina. She's got an eye for what looks good. And it's amazing. Let me just, since I'm talking about me, let me talk a little bit about me and her, because really it's a team. When it comes to the real estate investing stuff, I'm more of the big picture guy. I'm more of the go out and find the asset guy. I'm more of the go out and run the numbers guy. I'm more of the see if it makes sense, can work guy. And if I get one that looks like it makes sense, then I turn Tina loose on it. What does that mean, turn Tina loose on it? That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Well, it's not. It's actually a really good thing. Here's what it means. It means I get a different set of eyes that look at the aesthetics of the asset. My wife can look at the interior of a property, and just from pictures, she can tell you what works and what doesn't, what needs to be changed to meet the demands of current renters, and what can be left alone. She can look at the exterior, and she can tell you if the colors work or the colors don't work. Why is that important? Because your consumers, your customers are going to look at your asset and they're going to compare it to whatever else they can rent. Remember yesterday's show when I talked to you about that? Well, I'm bringing it back up today. Real estate investing has to be viewed through your eyes, the way your customer will see your asset. Now, I'm not real gifted in the what looks good category. I mean, keep in mind, I spent 27 years in the United States Army. I was told how to dress. That kept me from being a fashion whatever. What do they call those people that don't have fashion? That's me. I'm that guy. So when all I had to do was put on the same uniform day after day, and if I was have to put on a different uniform, there at least was a regulation that covered what that looked like. Does that make sense? Yeah. My wife brings something to the table that I don't have. And I admire it. I cherish it. I respect it. And I use it. I use the heck out of it. I'm using it in my principal residence. I use it on the properties that I'm considering buying because it helps me understand what I need to do to make the property the standard that I have learned at Lifestyles Unlimited. Now, going back to my residence, my principal residence that I've been talking about this entire show. Is there a standard? Yes, there is. Does my principal residence meet or exceed the standard I would set for my rental properties? Well, technically it exceeds the standard, and I want it to exceed the standard. But it does meet some of the minimums because it's just as aesthetically pleasing as my rental properties would be. The difference is the materials and the appliances I use in my principal residence are more expensive, higher sought than I would put in a rental property. I don't over-improve my rental properties because I look at what the competition is doing. I'm looking at what the competition is providing. If they're providing granite countertops, I probably have to have granite countertops. But if they have finished countertops that look like granite, guess what I'm going to budget for? Exactly. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed today's show. I hope you enjoyed the info dump. And for those of you that sent me the emails to askal@luinc.com or dialed 866-945-6565 and asked that Lifestyles Unlimited member to send me a message, thank you for that. And if you want to do what I'm doing, you want to do what the members of Lifestyles Unlimited are doing, go to lifestylesunlimited.com, click on Start Here, and let's get you going.
Thank you for listening to Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Ready for more of the map? Visit lifestylesunlimited.com. Explore our videos and articles. Click on the radio tab to access past show podcasts. View the radio show schedule and listen to our best of radio shows. Want to continue the conversation? Follow Lifestyles Unlimited on Facebook today. We want to meet you as well. Sign up for a free workshop at lifestylesunlimited.com. Until next time, remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this station, its affiliates, its management, or advertisers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.